It's been a long week, but a very eventful, exciting week for the school community. I think we've had the privilege of meeting some great candidates, and pleased to be able to introduce you to Mychal, who is our third, also equally impressive. I won't go through the whole process that you I recognize from at least one of the last two sessions, but I did want to remind everybody that we have a deadline of this afternoon at 4 in terms of providing feedback. And so please, not only your participation here is important, but equally important, we want to hear from you what your thoughts are and how you view each of the candidates. So that helps the board assemble a composite picture of who will be the best fit for our community. That's all I'm going to say about the process. I'm very pleased to introduce Mychal Thom. When we were going through the search process and the committee received, all the names that we received, and we saw Mychal's resume and done some really interesting things. Quite a young fellow, if I may say. And when we started to check around as the list got smaller, we had several people come back to us and say, you got to look at this guy. He is, and the words rising star were used. And when the search committee met him, we were just tremendously excited. He brings energy, he brings passion, he brings ideas. So in terms of tenure, he's been head of school for 2 years at Fort Wayne, 4 years as principal before that, 3 years as head of school at a smaller school in Houston. So relatively new, but the types of things that he's been able to do in that short time really impressed the committee. And of course, I hope you'll see when he takes the stage that the energy and the passion that he has also, really just struck a chord with the committee. So when we got down to our list of 7, he was on it. When we met in person, we really enjoyed our time with him, and so he was one of our top candidates. We're very glad to welcome Mychal, his wife Lauren, who Mychal's actually put to work here. She's going to do the AV. But I'd like to pass it on to Mychal, let him tell you his story, and then of course encourage you to challenge him with interesting questions. So again, thank you for your participation. This is the last one of our parent forums, so thank goodness for that. And if we do this right and the process goes smoothly, we should be settled on our new head of school by the end of February. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's good to see all of you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to come and meet me and listen for a little while. I really appreciate it. Harold mentioned my wife, Lauren, so we arrived in Hong Kong at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. And an awesome day at the Taizeng campus yesterday. And I met with a lot of folks, met with a lot of people, and I'm excited to be here this morning and see this campus as well. So the way we'll start is I'll just offer a few slides, a little bit of my background, tell a little bit about myself, a little bit of why we're here. That always seems to be a burning question for people. And then also where I think I might be able to add to the already excellent place that is HKIS. And I'm interested in the questions that you have and being able to have a little bit of dialogue with you this morning. So, put the next slide up there. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is my family. They're up there, and we have 3 boys. Lauren and I have been married for just over 12 years now. And in the course of that time, we've lived in quite a few different places, as Harold had alluded to earlier. Michigan is where we started, and then we moved to Texas and Indiana, and that's where we currently are right now. And over the course of that time, we've had 3 wonderful boys. You'll see all the way up there on the right. That's Jeremiah. Jeremiah is 11 years old, and he's in the 5th grade. He loves to play basketball and baseball and a little bit of football. He also loves to draw. He's a tremendous artist, like his mom is, and just into all kinds of different things. He's currently back in the States playing a basketball game now, and then in a day or so he'll do a band concert, and then in another day or so he'll do a choir concert, and you know the drill, right? You've got kids that young, and so we really enjoy it. We enjoy all of the things that he's interested in. He's a tremendous young man, very sensitive heart, and very caring young man. All the way on the left, you'll see is Isaiah. Isaiah is 9. He's in the 4th grade. He'll be 10 in April. Isaiah also loves to play basketball and baseball and football as well. He does a little bit of that. Isaiah's a very curious young man and very introspective. So we'll go, 2 or 3 weeks with the small talk with Isaiah. How's it going? Good. How's school? Good. Oh, that's very good, right? And then every once in a while, you get a peek into Isaiah's head and into his heart, and he'll ask a very deep question about life or about the things around him. So we really appreciate his thought process, and we've learned from him that pressing him with questions every single day isn't the best way to get to his thoughts. He'll come forward with those, and he's been just a joy to get to know as he's grown up. And then the chipper one up there is Malachi. That is his picture face most of the time. So every picture that you see, we did get one around Christmas that is a smile from Malachi, and so that's plastered all over the place and Facebook in our house. We were able to manage to smile out of him. He's 4 now. He was 3 in that picture. He's all grown up and is 4 now. He just turned 4 in January. He does his best to keep up with the older 2 boys, and he loves hanging out with them, and he loves running around. And while they're playing baseball, he's playing his own baseball game. And while they're playing basketball, he's playing his own basketball game. We love his curiosity and hanging out with him as well. And so that's our family. And we, like I said, all 3 of them have been born in different cities. When we talk to them about the potential of moving, again, the potential of a little bit larger move this time, the older 2 are tremendously excited about that opportunity, adventurous, I would say. And it's interesting, at different times in your life, you get this feedback from your kids. You're able to talk to them a little bit and again, get a little bit of window into what they're thinking. We've gotten some great reflection back on, because we've moved a little bit in our lives, the fact that the 5 of us be together is really all that matters to them. So it's not an address or a house or a school or this or that. It's us that they're really interested in making sure it stays close-knit. So that's a little about my family. Now, in a second here, I want to tell you a little bit about my extended family, where I come from. And I think it's important for you to see that, and for you to know that, because it helps shape and form who I am, why I do what I do, and the way that I perceive the world. So Lauren, if you can put the next slide up there, please. This is my family that I grew up in. If you're having trouble identifying which one is me, I'm the one all the way up in the back on the right in the blue sweater. That's me. And so I have 7 brothers and sisters, and of the 8 of us, 6 of us are adopted. So my parents, you see there in the middle, Al and Sherry, are originally from Wisconsin, and my dad was a baseball player in college, in football, and then he's also an educator. So he was a professor at a college in Monroe for 40 years. And when they moved from Wisconsin to Michigan, he pursuing a master's degree at Eastern Michigan. And he and my mom moved there together, and you get a chance to hear stories from your parents as you get older and reflect back on their lives and decisions that they've made and things that they've done. And I remember talking to my dad, and he said, when they got to Michigan and rented their first apartment there, my dad said he picked my mom up, carried her through the threshold of their first apartment. He said, "Sherry, it's just going to be the 2 of us." Obviously, that was not true. They had my oldest sister, Christine. She is in the red sweater up there. And then my oldest brother, Matt, who's leaning down in front of me on the bottom right there. And they're both biological to my parents. And then after Matt was born, there were a few complications health-wise with my mom. They recommended that she no longer have any more kids biologically. My mom was trained as a nurse, and she worked a lot in the NICU as she did part of her professional career. She just loved babies, loved taking care of people, loved taking care of kids. And so they pursued adoption. So they adopted then my sister Carmen, who's right in the middle there above the T in storage. She's from Seoul, South Korea. And so my dad flew over to Korea and adopted her. That particular adoption was one in which my sister Carmen sort of left the adoption agency. There were no paperwork, no records, no family. And so they picked her up, he picked her up and brought her back. And that sort of opened up the door for international adoptions and all kinds of things for our family. So after Carmen, then came me. They adopted me when I was 5 months old. I'm biracial, and so I have both African American and Caucasian, Hungarian, Danish descent in my background. And then continued to adopt kids. And so after me, my sister Carrie, who's from Canada, my brother Mark, who's also biracial, my sister Caitlin, who is in the red turtleneck up there, also from South Korea. We got Caitlin when she was 6 years old. So she came, this time my dad and my sister Carmen, also from Korea, flew over to Korea to pick up Caitlin. and brought her back. And Caitlin, I said, was 6 years old, and so she didn't speak any English when she came to us. She knew two things. Actually, we thought we could decipher two things when she first came in. We knew that she had to use, when she had to use the bathroom. That was one thing that was made quite clear. And the other thing that she could say is pizza. So we felt pretty good about life, at least for the first few years there, with those two things, especially living in the States. But one of the fascinating things about Caitlin is that, as I said, she didn't speak a word of English, therefore she didn't read English and all those kind of things. And so for the first year, she stayed home with my mom. My mom taught her to read. My mom taught her the language. Fast forward to Caitlin's life now. She's married with a couple of kids on the west side of Michigan. And she just finished her BSN. She's a registered nurse and is one of the few people in the country with a specific tag on her nursing degree for emergency trauma. So she's tremendously successful, and she talks really fast, and she's really short, but we have a really great relationship, Caitlin and I. I'm really proud of what she's managed to do, given her past and where she started. And then after Caitlin, Mac John is sitting on my dad's lap over there, and Mac, it was an interesting story because as my parents were adopting kids, we also were a foster home for kids as we were growing up. And so from the time that I was adopted through the time that I left the house when I went to college, there were about 25 foster children through our home in various stages and various levels of health. And so it became a really neat opportunity for us to recognize and understand the health needs for different babies, the ways that we could help, and the ways that our family came together to try to help these kids. Well, Mac John came to us as a foster child when he was first born. His name was Dominic at the time, and so we brought him in and cared for him, and the adoptive parents came, and that kind of didn't work out. They decided against it after a little bit of time, and so after celebrating his first birthday at our house, and one of those family meetings, I said, "Dad, Mom, you gotta keep this one." And he said, "Okay, but 8 is enough." And we heard that phrase, and so that cut it off. And there are 20 years difference between my older sister and my youngest brother. I think I've been very fortunate to grow up in a family that has, as I see it, is all that I know. And so, people often ask me, Michael, what's it like to be adopted? And I kind of think and ponder for a minute, and I go, well, gosh, I don't know. What's it like to be biological? Because that's all you know, and that's all I know, right? And so it's fantastic, to be honest with you. And it's a tremendous opportunity to see the world in a different light, be able to grow up with people. And I think sort of the defining thing of this backstory, the reason that I tell you all that, is because I very much see people and see the world as if whatever I see up front, there's a whole story behind that. Everybody has one. There's a whole story behind that. And so when you meet people, it's great to get to know them, but understand that often what you see, there's a whole lot behind that. That's not just adults, right? That's kids. And so one of the reasons I do what I do is because I love to learn about stories. I love to learn about where the kids come from. I love to learn about how we can help them succeed. Some kids come from tremendous families, and they have tremendous gifts and opportunities. We want to continue to encourage those students to use their gifts and move forward. Some students aren't that fortunate. They come from families that are broken. They come from situations that are really difficult. But certainly in the case of my sister Caitlin, the first 6 years of her life in Seoul, South Korea were not very nice. They weren't very good. But she's able to succeed as well. And she has a story. And so I get very involved and invested in the stories of the people that I meet. And this is one reason why. And I also see the world quite differently than what might appear when you first meet. All right, so next I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background. Lauren, if you go to the next slide, please. So that's me in the background. I went to Lutheran grade school in Michigan. Had a tremendous impact on my life. Probably the most impactful was my 4th grade teacher. His name was John Bolt. And Mr. Bolt had all 8 of us in the 4th grade. Remember, there's 20 years between that. And so he started at the school just a couple years before my sister got there. And then he's still teaching there as of today. He's a tremendous guy. He really made it cool to learn, to go to school. Made it fun. It was really engaging. He was also my track coach, my cross-country coach. And later on in life, we became really good friends. We've gone on several mission trips together. And he's also the godfather to Isaiah, who you saw earlier. And so just the profound impact that a teacher can have, that's one for me. I'm sure you have one in your life too. But he's mine. So in grade school, grew up there, and then I went to a Catholic high school. Had awesome opportunities there. One of the things about why I do what I do now is because I really liked school. I enjoyed it. I was good at it. Got a lot of successes, a lot of affirmation in school, and it offered me opportunities to do more than just study. I was also able to play athletics and lead in different student government groups and represent the school in different arenas and speak on behalf of the school in different areas. And so it offered me a lot, and it tapped into a lot of the gifts that I felt like I had and helped me grow as a person. So I graduated from that school as the Catholic High School salutatorian and received a full academic and full athletic scholarship to go to Oakland University, which is a public university in Michigan. And so I was also admitted to the honors college there, and so I had a tremendous opportunity to go through college with a smaller cohort of people and really get the most out of it from the professor. So whereas some lectures would be, as you know, maybe 100, 200, 300 students, I had one particular class where the first day of class there were 30 of us. It was an engineering systems class. I was not an engineer major, I was a biology major, but the honors college afforded me opportunities to take classes outside of that major. And so the professor, Mohammed Zodi was his name, very energetic guy, loved basketball, knew everything about me before I got into the class and about the basketball team. So we talked about that for a while, and after 3 weeks of the class, I started noticing that the numbers were dwindling, that people weren't coming. And so I showed, now mind you, this is an 8 o'clock class on Tuesday and Thursday morning for 2 hours. And after 3 weeks, it was just Dr. Zodi and me. And for the next 3 or 4 weeks, every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, I'd show up, and Dr. Zodi would show up, and he would teach me engineering systems for an hour and 45 minutes. And then he talked with me for basketball for another 45 minutes, like Dr. Zodi, I gotta go to practice, right? Like, I gotta go. But those kind of experiences were afforded to me, and I very much appreciated that. He invested in me, and that was an important experience for me. So I went through college in the public university and played basketball. We had a tremendously successful time doing that, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. So I've also, since graduating from college, I've had the opportunity to teach at the university level, teach in the middle school level and high school level, and also lead schools that are pre-K to 8, high school, and 2 high schools across a couple of different states. Also had the opportunity to be involved in the Association of Lutheran Secondary Schools Board. I was chair of that board for a couple of years. And also I teach in a Christian Executive Management program that's based out of Michigan. And that program allows us to work with heads of school across North America, and actually across the world, and teach them the executive management skills of running a school. A lot of the research and studies behind particularly Christian schools are that leaders that get into those positions have a high academic background, but not a very high management background. The executive skills, finances, admissions, marketing, those types of things that really the school needs to move forward. And so I went through the program myself, and then 2 years after I graduated from the program, they asked me to come back and teach in the program, so I currently do that. It's a fascinating experience, one of the best things that I do, one of the things I enjoy the most. So let's talk about my work experience to this point, and I'm sure there'll be a few questions later when we go into a little bit more of the practical things of leading a school and things that I've been able to, that I felt good about in schools that I'm a part of. I want to go to the next slide here. And this one, so I did play Division I basketball at Oakland University. That is me, and the story that I tell is that shot went in. So you can see my coach is kneeling there. You can see the sheer confidence on his face. Right? Please keep shooting, Michael, is what I see in that face. But I showed this picture because the ability to play on a Division I basketball team and had a profound impact on my leadership, profound impact on my development as a person. When I first got to Oakland University, we were a Division II program, And shortly after that, we made the jump to Division I. That meant a couple of things. First and foremost, it meant that our team, my freshman year, we went to the NCAA Division II tournament, went to the Elite Eight. We were very successful. And so that meant, and the jump from Division II to Division I, that the rest of my basketball career, it was already decided because we would be on probation when you go from one division to another, that I would not have the opportunity to play in another NCAA tournament. That was told to me right away. So you have to either transfer or stay, but here's the best you can do is your senior year to win the league championship. That's the best you can do. And so there were also a lot of other things going on in the university at the time. Not everybody was that excited about going to Division I. There were some other athletic programs that were quite successful at the Division II level and didn't want to move. There were a lot of professors that were concerned about the academic reputation of the school if we were to go to Division I, and the athletes that would come in, and would we still have a high level of academic reputation in the community. Being a student athlete and caring very much about academics, I became a spokesperson in the university for the move to Division I, talking about my experience, talking about my goals. I felt like that was really a good opportunity. Sit in a room with professors and talk about what it meant to me to be in the university. So that helped shape and form. And then it's a tremendous experience to work with a team towards a specific goal. As soon as I was told that this is the best you can do, is win the regular season championship, I made that my goal, my singular goal for the next 3 years. And so as other guys came into the program and as we started to develop broader relationships and started working toward that, that was our focus. And I was able to rally the guys around that goal. So my senior year, we start the season and that's our goal. And about a month into the season, our best player, leading scorer and rebounder, broke his hand in a non-sports related injury. If you've ever heard of one of those, that means he was doing something stupid outside of basketball. I think, anyways. And so that was a big blow, right? It was a big challenge, obstacle. A lot of sunken shoulders, a lot of sad faces. What are we going to do? And remember, I'm a senior. I only have a few months left to play, and this is the goal. And so, long story short, through lots of conversation with folks and motivating speeches and those kinds of things, and just sheer determination, we had to win our last 6 games in order to have a chance. And we won all 6, 2 of them in overtime, 1 of them in double overtime. We got a nice ring to show that we made it all the way to the end. And it was great. It was a very defining experience for me. Building confidence, learning how to work within a team, setting a goal and accomplishing that goal, and having a vision for what that looked like. So I'm tremendously proud of that, and really love the opportunity to do that. Now, I tell you my story, and they gave me the microphone, but my wife back there also played Division I athletics. She was a softball player, and I'm just one with the microphone, but she has 3 more NCAA rings than I have, and also 3 more league championships than I have. She was a tremendous athlete in her own right, and a student as well. But we met at Oakland University, and we're married in 2005. I think I've got 1 more up there, maybe? No, 2 more. Why HKIS? Why be interested in this community? We've never lived overseas, never been a part of an international school before as far as leading one. And so I think there are a couple of things that are important for you to know about how and why we would consider this as an opportunity. And the first one is excellence. This is an excellent place. You don't have to go very far, even in the States, to learn that, to understand that, to know people that have been here, have come back, and speak very highly of the place. I will tell you that I'm attracted to excellent places. I like to work with people that have excellence in mind and that strive towards a goal and want to achieve it. That have resources to be able to put towards that, but are good stewards of those resources. So I'm attracted to places that like to move, that like to set goals and accomplish those goals and have definitive, measurable outcomes for those. So the sheer fact that it's an excellent place attracts me. Second, vision. There's a vision for the place. This building here was a vision once, yes, and now it's come to fruition. There are other visions and strategies and plans that are in place. I'd love to be a part of that. I'd love to be able to add whatever I can to help accomplish a vision and then continue to set new vision and articulate that vision to others. Get people even more excited about what's going on and where we're headed and what we're doing. So that attracts me as well. One of the things I think is that the best predictor of future success, I believe, is past success. And so there have been other opportunities in my past where they really needed somebody to come in and kind of stop the bleeding. Enrollment is trending down finances are bad. We need somebody to come in and stop the bleeding. I can do that. It's not where I best fit. It's not where I best fit. It's not necessarily the way that I'm wired. And so, so past success has a great indication to me of what the future might hold. So that's attractive to me. It's a challenge, though. Not only the challenge of moving overseas, the challenge of a much larger school, 2,800 students, lots of faculty, lots of staff, and so that doesn't intimidate me, that excites me, energizes me, gives me an opportunity to challenge, to meet that challenge, to develop strong relationships, to try to make an already excellent place even better. Those are the kind of challenges that excite me and that I look forward to. And so for all those reasons, we entered the process and continue to have conversations, made the decision to visit because we think it's a potential match. Earlier in my career, as I grew up in administration, there's always a tendency to want to, boy, I think I could go get that job. I think I could go be the selection, and I don't think that way anymore because it has to be the right match. And so we engage in very few interview processes because we discern very early whether this could be a potential match or not. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're engaging in the process, and those are the reasons why we think this could be a good match. Last slide. Strengths. What do I think I do well? So somebody asked me if that was my arm. Sure, absolutely. Here's what I think I do well. Before I go through the points on the slide, I want to say a little bit about some analysis that I've done. I feel like one of the best things a leader can do is find out as much as they can about themselves. Learn as much as they can about themselves, what they do well, where those areas of strengths are, and where those areas of weakness are, challenge that need to get better. And so one of the assessments that I've done that I'm very much involved in is the Clifton Strengths. It used to be called Strengths Finder. And so I have a top 5 list of strengths, those things, the way in which I'm wired, those things I naturally tend towards. And then how do I use those in leadership? So I'll tell you what they are, those 5, and I'll tell you then, so there are 34 of these that can be listed. I'll give you my top 5, and then I'll tell you a little about my bottom ones, the ones that aren't part of how I'm wired in the strengths that I have. So my top 5 in order are this. Belief is number 1. Number 2 is strategic. Number 3 is self-assurance. I'm not sure I'm confident in telling you that. Yeah, I am. Number 4 is competition. And number 5 is futuristic. And so particularly those strategic and futuristic ones maximize each other. And so I get excited about thinking about what's going down the road. Where are we going? What are we doing? Picturing that place. And then sitting down with people and creating roadmaps for how to get there. That's one of the strengths that I have. And in that process, that brings me to point number 1, relationship builder. I really enjoy building relationships with people, talking with people. Again, it goes back to finding out about their story. What makes people tick? How do we, if we're going to envision this place down the road, how do we mobilize as many people focused on that goal to get there? And part of that is articulating vision. Part of that is sitting down and building trust. All those kind of things go into that. So relationship builder is one of them. Team player. This goes back to the days of playing multiple sports, but particularly basketball. Knowing that there are days when people are going to be at their very best, and there are days when people are going to struggle. Knowing that the consistency of the team really relies on the trusting relationships within that team. And knowing about the strengths of that team and where we're strong and those areas that we might need to be aware of that we're not so strong is really important in helping us move forward. So I mentioned I shared with you my top 5. Here are a couple that are in my bottom 5. So of the 34th, bottom of the list. You guys look way more interested in my weaknesses than my strengths. I don't know why that is, right? But 34th is consistency. You're like, oh, great, here we go. We're going to be in 15 different rabbit holes, right? No. Consistent is what it means. It means that I do not enjoy, and I'm not wired to go into a job that is the same thing every day. That frustrates me to go in. And so school leadership, as you might imagine, I don't think I've been doing this 12 or 13 years or so. I've never had the same day twice. That's one of the reasons why I do this, and why I'm gravitating towards it. Because there are things that come up that you don't expect. You're doing this with a building project, and you got a discipline issue, and you got a faculty conversation, and then you got this. And oh, by the way, remember you've got to write that article for the publication coming out. Right? That's a normal day, but none of them are the same. And so the consistency part of it is I need to have some variety in the way that I work. Another one at the bottom of the list, I think it's 31 or so, is harmony. And harmony basically means that I have to pay attention to the fact that as we're visioning out, and as we're strategizing, and as we're looking to the future, I've got to make sure that I tell people what's in my head. Because I can live in that place by myself sometimes, and not bring other people along. And so I need those folks around me, parts of my team, to be able to say, hey, Mike, remember, you've got to articulate that. Or tell us what's in your head. Tell us what you're thinking about. And how can we best articulate that to other people? So I'm aware of that. And currently in my position, I have folks around me that do that I hold accountable to doing that. I ask them, you got to tell me the truth. Are we living too far down the road? Have we communicated this enough? And I'm fortunate to have those people around me right now. The last two, vision and strategy creator, that again goes along with this strategy, strategic and futuristic part of the way that I'm wired. And then finally, follow through. And I want to give you two examples of follow through from the recent past here, because follow through looks good on paper, but in all practicality, what have you done? Right? What have you done? Where have you taken to school? In my current school, we had when I first arrived 6.5 years ago, the school has had the same bell schedule the school's been in existence for 83 years, since 1935 or so, and they've had the same bell schedule for 83 years. That's not normal, by the way. And so they've done it the same way for 83 years in a row, the same bell schedule. And I felt like we needed a change. Not for the sake of change, but because I felt like our students were not given the best opportunity to learn and the best options for electives and those kinds of things as part of our program. So we spent 2 years top to bottom researching and putting together plans. Then we spent another year getting people comfortable with it, talking through it. And I'm happy to say that we've changed the bell schedule. And that may seem like a small thing, but something that's deeply rooted into an organization that becomes cultural. Those are oftentimes the hardest changes to make, even though they may seem on the surface pretty simple. So that's one record to follow through. And another is a dream that I had when I first got there of instituting an honors academy in our school. We had just spent a lot of time developing programs for students that struggle. So we have sort of a student success center, trying to help students through the program with high academic rigor at our school, and sometimes students struggle for that. So we spent a lot of time, resource people, and building that program up. And then it was time to do something for the upper echelon students, to make sure there was a packaged program for them that they could go through. So we spent, again, 2 years dreaming of this program, found the right people to lead it, and I'm happy to say that in about a month and a half from now, our first class of seniors through this Honors Academy program will be presenting their senior projects and graduating in May with the distinction of having graduated from the Honors Academy at our school. And so those are a couple of examples of follow-through. When we get dreams, when we get ideas, we're able to put those into practice and lead those forward. So I've done a lot of talking so far, but I wanted to give you a good idea of who I am, where I come from, and a little bit about me. And at this time, I think we're ready to open it up for questions from you.
Michael, thank you very much for an excellent presentation, an excellent introduction, and welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you.
I'm sure as you've gone through this process, you've come to learn quite a bit about our school. From what you've observed, what would you see as being the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges that the school faces going forward?
Thank you. Yeah, good question. So I'll start with the opportunities. I think that there are tremendous opportunities to be part of a school that already has an excellent reputation and to learn from excellent people. We've got a wonderful faculty, a lot of great, sharp administrators, and an opportunity for me is to be able to work collegially with those folks. That's exciting to me, to learn from them, the places that they've been, things that they've done. Also opportunities, as there are some plans in place to move forward, whether it's building projects or programs, to plug into those and immediately add my ideas to the process. So we're not starting from scratch where you have to manufacture all of the energy and all of the plans. There are some plans in place, I feel like I can plug in and help maximize those plans. Challenges, I think aside from the challenges of learning a move, an international move with the younger kids, I think that continuing to, or making sure that you're able to get to know as many people as possible. It's a big place, there's lots of people, multiple campuses, and so I think that would take some time, but I think that would be a challenge to make sure that as you come in, people know that you're invested in the school, people know that the decisions you make are in an effort for the best of the school, best interest of the school, and to continue to articulate that over time. So I think that in the past, that's been able to happen relatively quickly for me, but the scale of the school would make that take a little bit longer. I think it would be a little bit of a challenge for me.
Thanks for coming here. I can't imagine going through this process that you guys are going through, so hats off to you guys. You talked about your background in executive education and training and management. When you came into your current role, what were the goals that you set for yourself? You told us about some of the things you've done, and where are you in executing against that plan so far?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I appreciate the thoughts on the process. It's energizing most of the time. So some of the goals, when I first came in as a principal to the current role that I had now, I learned a lot about specifically how we were doing our admissions process, what our compensation plan was for our teachers, and where we were in our overall budget. And those three things needed work. We didn't have a very defined admissions policy and plan. The school had been decreasing in students, not much, but needed to grow. And so admissions and marketing were a big part of that. Secondly, as far as past compensation bonuses or raises, it had been tremendously sporadic at the school. And so the teachers had a low confidence level that there would even be a raise or anything like that. And then budgetarily, the 5 years previous to me being there, we had only been in the black one of those 5 years. The other time we were operating not in the black. So I made those three goals of mine. And the first thing I tackled was an evaluation and compensation model at our school. And so our evaluation model was lacking, and so I changed it. And then we developed a process that was quite a bit more involved. We linked it to compensation. And the reason why we changed it was because I felt that the students and families deserved more, and that more was direct personal feedback to our teachers and helping them grow. So we went from sort of a traditional model of observation where a teacher might receive a pre-observation meeting, an observation, post-observation meeting, that might be it for the year. Or if they've been teaching long enough and not had a lot of problems per se, then they wouldn't have an evaluation that year. And so I made it a point that every teacher got evaluated every year, and it was a highly invested relationship building and investment process from the administration, and we linked it to compensation. I'm happy to say that now we are in the 4th year of that program, and the teachers the last 3 years have had either a raise or a salary bonus, base pay raise each of those years. Admissions-wise, we've gained about 100 students in the school. We'd like to gain another 250. In order to do that, though, we have to expand our facility, because it can't hold another 250. So the next step in the plan back in Indiana would be a facilities plan for the next 10 or 15 years. But we have increased our admissions and marketing. And then budgetarily, 3 of the last 4 years we've finished in the black. So we had to make some changes, some tweaks. We had to recognize where we were overspending, and we had to also go out and try to raise more money, which we have been successfully able to do. So those were 3 specific things from an executive management standpoint that our school needed to work on that we've been able to move forward.
Good morning. I have a question on learning and teaching style. I'm sure you know that HPIS has a very strong teaching and learning philosophy. It's a holistic approach, the whole child. How do you stand toward this type of teaching philosophy? What's your own philosophy?
So part of my overriding philosophy is that every student deserves an opportunity to be successful. So when a school admits a student, they're making that student and family a promise. And the promise to that student and family is that we will help you learn. And so that's not a small promise, by the way. It's a big deal. And so one of the things that I think that from a philosophy of learning is really understanding how kids learn. So understanding the different teaching modalities and the different learning modalities, whether they're tactile, kinesthetic, maybe they're more ropes that kids learn, or a multitude of ways all packaged into one. And so I think it's the job of the educator to make sure that they are well skilled in multiple modalities so that students can learn. And I think it's incumbent upon the students not only to learn as much about themselves and how they learn, but to practice learning in those areas that may be outside of the best way that they learn. Because ultimately, as they go down further in life, they're going to have a broad range of ways in which they learn. So the fact that when I think about schools, and I say this all the time to our faculty, I want us to be known as an institution of learning. And I shy away a bit from teaching, not because I don't think it's important, because I think when we add that second statement, then we almost take a little bit off the teachers that they're not learning either. So an institution of learning means everybody in the institution is learning. The teachers need to learn. The administration needs to learn. Obviously, the students need to learn. And part of that learning is learning how the students interact, how they engage the best, and then learning how to interact with each other so that we can maximize each other's talents. So I'm highly invested in the philosophy of an institution of learning across multiple educational modalities.
Hi.
Hi.
You reminded me of Anthony Robinson. I love that guy.
Well, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. Is that true? Every success man, there's a very strong IT person, IT lady behind. Thank you for coming this far to meeting us. I can understand it's a tough selection process. I like the way you introduce your family, your background, and adopted family. It's totally global, international, all different nationalities. And I can imagine you grew up in that environment with love and care and compassion. That's kind of related to me and your family and our family background. And you've got a beautiful family. So when you talk about your goal, you talk about your value, you talk about your passion, I think there's one thing you told us, you come from the background athletic. And this is so important for us. And I believe every child should go take sports. And this is so, not only can build children's confidence, but also give them strength to tackle any problems come down to them, either study or the career or friendship or relationships. Okay, and I like the way you have that. Right, so I'm going to ask you some tough questions. You know, when we chose Hong Kong International, this is the only school we applied in that year. Because I don't believe any other school can match as exactly what I felt about Hong Kong International. I read everything about the school, the school's mission, school's value, LSIRs, every single thing matched our family values. Okay, so can you share with us on this front? Is our school's mission, value, and SLRs matched to your family? That's one question.
Okay. So I would say that as Lauren and I have discerned in this process, even whether we would continue or not, we spent a lot of time on the school's website. We spent a lot of time talking to folks that had been here in one capacity or another to gain a feel and perspective from different types of people. And we studied hard the curriculum program. You know, part of it is we would have 3 students here as well. And we're highly invested in education for them, highly invested in that. And so as we looked at the school every step of the way, when we had to make decisions on whether we wanted to continue, we went back to the school itself and what it was about. So things in the SLRs like self-motivated learning, tremendous. And not just words on a wall and you see it plastered over, but to see kids, since I've been here now, to see kids act that out. We walked through some classrooms yesterday. You can see it in action. And so the values that the school has, the SLRs that they have are a great match for what we want. And I would say first and foremost, as we're raising 3 boys, for their educational experience. And then secondly, for the opportunities that it would bring for myself and my wife. As we're part of a community like that, whether, and for me professionally, be a part of a community like that. So to get to the point of being able to, I thank Carol and the board for giving me the opportunity, but every step of the way we had to make a decision of whether we wanted to stay in the process or not. And every time it came back to the mission of the school, the opportunities that the school could provide not only for our boys, but for us, and those things matched.
It's not really working.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your energetic and enthusiastic presentation, and I found it very inspiring and brilliant, so thank you so much. My question to you is, you talked about one of your strengths as being, looking into the future and liking to do that, and I like to do that as well. And I'm interested to hear what you see for the future of HKIS, and just kind of building on your past experiences and bringing best practices in, and what you're seeing out there. So what do you see for the future of HKIS if you were to come in as the head of school?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As I've had a chance to, again, review online some of the school, the school's website and some of what it's been through, I think that's one thing. Then you're here on campus and you get to walk through and see. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to tour the lower primary campus yet. I can't wait to do that. But I'll talk specifically through 2 lenses. The one lens is I know that there are plans for increase or for different spaces for the high school and middle school. And after walking through yesterday, I would say that down the road, my hope and vision and goal would be that their spaces aren't bad. But I think that there are spaces out there that could continue to help increase the learning opportunities for students and to help interdisciplinary learning for teachers and increased opportunities for students, whether it's electives or core courses in an interdisciplinary way. So how do we marry things like math and science in different courses? How do we design a classroom that is what a student might actually work in and not necessarily just learning? How do we create more community spaces, especially for our high school students? Community opportunities where they can come together and study, learn, where they can meet in small groups with teachers. Talking to Dave yesterday about some of the schedule opportunities in broadening some of those things. And so I think that's really important. So future for me in schools is that we're preparing students for jobs and opportunities that sometimes we don't know what that looks like. Jeremiah, he's in 5th grade right now. He's a class of 2025. Isaiah, class of 2026. Malachi, the class of 2032 or something like that, 34 maybe. Okay. So when they graduate from high school, what are the jobs going to be like in 2035? There's also plenty of research out there that shows that especially students that have graduated in the last 5 years or so will likely have 8 or 9 different jobs over the course of their first 10 or 15 years of professional life. So how do they maneuver and navigate that, not only professionally but personally? What skills do they need? And so that's where my brain goes down the road for HKIS. I think that spaces are important, and then I think that the way in which we devise educational plans for our students and prepare them, so I'm preparing them for a specific job, we're preparing them for tools to enter into multiple jobs that we don't know exist yet. I spend a lot of time looking back at the last 10 or 15 years. So futuristic doesn't necessarily always mean looking forward, but I look back and say, hey, 15 years ago, what were we thinking about and what's true today? And 15 years ago, UX, the job of a user experience professional was not necessarily that popular or created yet. Now they're all over the place. And so are people prepared to go into that job, or are adults now needing to go back to school or get more experience in order to do the jobs that are available and are in high demand right now? And so in 10 or 15 years from now, we don't want to be in that spot, right? We want the graduates from HKIS to be the ones that people call and say, oh yeah, they've got a good thing going there, they know how to do this. Let's talk to them. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Morning.
Thank you so much, Michael, Thank you, Michael, for sharing with us your story and the story of your family and kind of bringing us into your world. And obviously you're here at, it's just a really short window on Wednesday. Learn everything you can about a place. But you mentioned that belief was one of the top of your strengths. Can you talk a little bit about your own faith and belief and how that impacts or how you see that as a part of this entire process? We're sitting in a chapel and we have an entire story right across the room there from us, but how does that story impact you? And where do you see that affecting how you would be head of school here?
Yeah, good question, thank you. So I'll start with my relationship with my father, who I think is a tremendous human being, but also a very strong man of faith and a strong man of belief himself. He is actually, share this, he's in the, soon, you leave and then things happen, right? So he's in the hospital right now, actually, kidney stones and stuff, so I'm praying that goes well for him this morning. But my relationship with my dad really taught me all kinds of things about belief. And the belief strength that I have says that I have a strong sense of values that I don't waver from. And so that plays out in education with my belief that every kid, that we promise that every student will learn and that will help them be successful and do everything that we can. Faith-wise, I went to a Lutheran grade school. I've been Lutheran my entire life. I've seen that play out in lots of different ways. I went to a Catholic high school. I went to a public university. I've taught in public schools. I've taught in Catholic schools. I've taught in Lutheran schools. And so the steadying force that we have, here's what I believe about my faith, here's how I was brought up in Christian values, doesn't change. As I go in different arenas, and I think this is a wonderful thing about the values and beliefs that we have, that can get expressed in lots of different ways. And what I've learned over time is that prominently, and this is where I go back to, I mentioned my dad, but both my parents, this is prominently a part of our family, and that is love. And so regardless of the particular scenario or situation that you're in, people around you should know that you love them. And that love can get expressed in lots of different ways. And so one of the values that I hold true, and that I believe in, is showing love to people. And however that manifests is different in different areas. My current role, we've gone through a couple of different ups and downs. 2 years ago, we lost a couple of students unexpectedly. And so showing love to the faculty and staff and students looked very much like praying with them, walking alongside and talking with them about how life is going. When you just lost your best friend, you recognize you're not going to get to go to homecoming with them. You're not going to get to go to, graduate with them. And so love looks like that. Love may look like in an evaluation setting, being very upfront with somebody about how you feel they're performing, speaking the truth in love. And so that belief, that strong set of values there boils down to I don't ever waver from, regardless of the setting that I'm making sure that people around me know that my goal is to express love to them.
Thank you so much for making the trip back to Hong Kong. I understand that you're involved in the building of a school in China. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what you've learned from that process?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So about 3 years ago, we were approached by a group of business folks down in China they were working with a group out of Concordia University in Chicago to begin a college program in Dalian. And so as they were working on that program, this set of business men decided they also wanted to build backwards into a high school program as well. So in consultation with the leadership at Concordia Chicago, they said, hey, we're looking to build a high school. We want it to be great. We want it to prepare kids for down the road. Who should we talk to? And the folks at Concordia University Chicago gave them our names. So they came, they visited our school, we talked to them about curriculum and all these kind of things, and they asked if we would partner with them. And so we did. We've made several trips over to Dalian. And we currently, the school is officially started. They're in their second year. The model is a little bit different. It's not an overtly outward faith-based school. That was an intentional decision because we wanted it to be for local Chinese passport holders. And so the model is that they spend 2 years in school over there, essentially their 10th grade and 11th grade years in Dalian. And then their senior year, they would travel to Fort Wayne and finish their high school experience at our place. So we did it for 3 reasons. One was to expand our mission beyond our walls. 2 was to help, I mentioned earlier about our financial situation. It was to help broaden our financial base. There's a financial arrangement where students that would enroll in that school would get a certain percentage of the tuition. And 3rd, down the road, we saw it as a great opportunity for a teacher share program, where our faculty could spend a semester over there and teach. Faculty that we helped hire over there to come teach at our place, try to broaden the view of our teachers and our students by way of teachers from down. We've learned that it's very different working with folks that are half a world away. Some of the processes take a lot of extra time. So we've learned that. We've also learned that there's a deep passion for creative and collaborative learning in that area. That students tend to have the rote part of learning down packed, but the creativity and the collaborative side of things are not up to where they want them to be. And so that's where we offer a certain level of expertise in directing the curriculum. So it's our curriculum that we institute over there. Our teachers, through several technology ways, are able to communicate with their teachers, and it's going pretty well, I think. So this summer, we should have 6 to 8 of the students that are from Dalian on our campus to finish their senior year.
Just I wanted to be aware of time. We are reaching the end of our time, so I will make we'll have one more question and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Excuse me. Mychal, Lauren, thank you for coming here today to speak with us. My question very quickly. In your view, how is innovation, creativity best taught? And please be specific. Changes that you would make to the school, or not necessarily changes, or maybe it's working already. But how do you see innovation and creativity being taught best?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is important when you're looking at innovation and creativity is to start with a problem. The way that I've seen it work best in schools is where students get together around a problem. Maybe it's a local problem, a regional problem, an international problem, global problem, and that's where the initial opening into creativity and innovation happens. When students feel like there's something to try to figure out, then they'll be creative about it. On the flip side, I think that when we prescribe and dictate to students what they should do, that's a great way to close the door on innovation and creativity. I think there's a certain level of here's what students need to know. So I don't know enough yet about the curriculum as to how that might get manifested here at HKIS, but I would be very interested in how students are solving problems outside of the classroom, presented with problems outside of the classroom. For instance, one of the ways I've seen it work best in younger kids is taking a basic essential need, human need, water, for example, and sharing with them that there are kids their age that don't have access to water. How would you solve that problem? And so they develop all kinds of creative ways. Some work, some don't. Some are reasonable, some aren't. But unless it's built around the problem, then the windows for innovation, the doors for creativity aren't necessarily open. It's more prescription. So much less prescription and much more open-ended. Here's an issue, how would you solve it? And then putting real tools into kids' hands, whether it be technology, whether it be, so we've created a makerspace in our school. Just give kids, we start with a grant for about $10,000, we bought a bunch of tools and Legos and Tinker Toys and said, play, design. We got a 3D printer. Go at it, see what you can build. And there are a lot of mistakes along the way, but then there's the thing that they create that they're really proud of. So I think creating your own problems and then giving people tools in order to do that.
Great. Thank you very much. Just wanted to add a little piece of information about Mychal. For those of you who are basketball fans, Mychal was the team captain in the final year that they won the league championship. He played every game, he had the most minutes during the season, 8 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and he shot 73% from the free throw line. So we told him if he comes to HKS, he's got to get to at least 80% from the free throw line, and that's what we did. Please join me in thanking Mychal and Lauren for spending their time with us today. We're very excited. And before I let everybody go, I've not had a chance to thank the communications team for all the great work that they've done, so thank you, Carrie, and your team. And Joy, where are you? Joy has been instrumental in pulling all of this together, so thank you, Joy. With that, final reminder, please get your comments back to us. And again, thank you so much for participating in our process.